Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Exit Is Now podcast. We are here at the Exit Planning Summit, walking through day 2 of the summit. I always like day 2 because it is super collaborative. So we're all in one room, it's all main stage sessions, and we all get to kind of collaborate and engage. I have my good friend Renee Russo on our podcast today. Big summit for her as she just won the 2025 Thought Leader of the Year. So welcome, and let's start there. How you doing? Pretty good?
I'm great. This is the best summit yet.
Yeah, I think so. Honestly, I really do. I think that certainly the biggest group, and everybody seems super happy. And
Absolutely.
So we got through that rain that we did on Sunday a little bit.
It's always a bit of rain. Last year there was
Sunday,
rain too.
Yeah. Well, last year it rained on us. Remember?
Right,
Were you caught in that? Yeah, I was soaked.
Burgers was soaked. Yeah. It was fine.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's start at the top, right? So, 2025 Thought Leader of the Year. I think one of the reasons that you won is just because of your, I think, mastery, I would say, of a like LinkedIn platform. You're always on my feed. It's probably like the algorithm just goes to you these days.
Or
But-
I'm stalking you.
Yes, right. And I think that there's a ton of stuff that you do inside of this community and in your EOS community as well, and in just the general business community. But let's talk about how you manage something maybe as simple as complex as your LinkedIn profile, and how do you create the content? Are you the one doing it? Things of that nature. There's many CEPAs that want to know, like, how do I harness and how do I make this happen? So that could be like Renee.
One thing that I have been forced to learn is energy management.
Okay.
And so I systemize everything. I systemize how I do my groceries, I systemize how I work with clients, and I systemize how I do my LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So what I do is, first of all, I have a basic static content approach, which I think about a theme, this time of year, what's going on, what do I want business owners thinking about. I then actually repeat the same thing over and over and over again for a period of time. Gino Wickman taught me it takes 7 times to say the same thing before anybody listens the first time.
Yeah.
And so I know that, and people are very distracted. So I tend to try to capture the same message in different nuanced ways. And I use ChatGPT to kind of morph the language. I use ChatGPT to create bots and voices for what I want to communicate and how I'm communicating it. The way I talk to advisors is like pleading and imploring them to think and act differently. Business owners is much more encouraging. You're doing great things. However, with a kind, loving hand, what got you here won't get you there. So I have taught ChatGPT to have different tones. I schedule it. I find a block of time and I just go deep. I use Canva for visuals, I use ChatGPT for my wording, and then I morph it into my own. I schedule it on a scheduling platform.
Okay,
And
yep.
so actually I often get people say, oh, great post today. And I'm like, let me go
What did
check
I
what that
post?
was. And so then
Yeah.
I go in and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, great, I understand. And they're like, you don't know what you posted? I'm like, I posted that in February.
Yeah,
and
it's just
May.
scheduled. Yeah.
So you got to look ahead, be strategic, systemize it, and make it repeatable. What that does is give me the peace of mind that I'm not thinking about, oh, I'm not doing my social, I'm not being active. But when something comes in, I get out of a tough client meeting, or I just got fired by a client, or something awesome happened, I can take that energy and put it straight into a video. And I just talk to the camera like I'm actually, what I teach people is talk to your kids in the phone and use grade 8 language, wherever your kids' ages are, grade 8 language, nice and clear, and make it short and clear. And then I actually use that video, I put that into ChatGPT, and it creates my caption.
Yeah, capture caption.
Yeah, but it's me, it's authentically myself. I'm not pulling from other people, because the one thing I would say is with LinkedIn or any other platform you choose, just find your voice. And the easier and more smooth it feels, that's your voice. When it feels off, don't do that. Do more of what feels like you, and it'll flow. But if you're not doing it often, you'll lose that cadence. You'll lose the benefit of the system. Systems are designed to sustain action, and that's the approach I take.
Yeah, so very systematic approach. Another person that we were talking about the use of AI and systems was Justin Goodbread, who also has a pretty big online presence just like you. And he had said very similar things. So for our audience, I want you to take away when you're listening to Renee or somebody like Justin, a lot of a deliberate and intentional process and systems that go into all the work that you do. So you can remain, again, authentically you, but you don't have to do it like on demand, right?
Totally.
You might record it and then throw it into the system. It comes out in a week or
Because when you're in your client work, you need to make your clients feel like nothing else matters.
Exactly.
And while you're worrying about this and that, checking your phone and social, like it's very distracting. One thing I love about Justin is that he knows his audience. So one of his biggest posts was he was on a hunting trip or whatever. I was like, well, that would completely not appeal to my West Coast Canadian demographic.
Yeah, fair,
and he was
right?
like, good point. But he knows it well and he plays it hard, and I think that's a great approach.
Absolutely. So the other big thing that happened, I think like this week, is you came out with a new book. You're here in the author showcase at the Exit Planning Summit. So talk about your book and your experience. I didn't get a chance to actually get through the showcase, but I heard it was pretty fruitful.
I have to first of all apologize to your dad.
Yeah?
He made me promise to keep him a copy, sign it, and he came in with his big smile at the end of the showcase to collect his book, and I was like, Chris, I gave it away.
I had to, right?
What I didn't account for was the lineup. I actually kept my eyes down because I didn't want to look at this line and actually confess to many of them that they weren't going to get a copy.
Sure.
So it was amazing, and this is a powerful place to launch and share your work. So I actually got my publishing company to make a postcard and promote them on one side, because there's books in a lot of these advisors. They have so much time in the session room and with clients, and I want their stories to be told and their lens to be shared. And I think that's a great way to elevate this profession. My book was a therapy project that went right.
Okay.
So it went right for me, and it went right in terms of the applicability to others. I hit rock bottom in my double exit, my business exit and marriage exit, which happened simultaneously. And I unfortunately lost everything, hit rock bottom, and frankly didn't know if I would get back up. However, I understood business intelligence and systems intelligence, and so I started to treat myself like a business, to teach myself how to manage my energy, and I built a basic method. What I realized is that I was hiding inside my marriage and my business. We had a business technology company, and when I fell out of that, came into my freedom, I had the one thing I wanted, but I didn't know what to do with it, and it was overwhelming to the point that it was crushing. Learning to be myself again on the other side of my double exit and managing my energy and building the courage to then build a future that was of my own design took a lot of work, especially when I was at a point where it took me 3 hours to get out of bed one day. Well, many days actually, until I systemized my energy. So I think the key message of the book is that when you change your energy, you change your outcomes. When you upgrade your energy, you upgrade your life. Giving business owners the time and space to recognize that they've long forgotten who they are, and giving them the tools to practice and relearn who they are well in advance of an exit, I think will save a lot of those deal failures and post-exit life crashes that we see. And so now, though it's agnostic, I seem to have written a book that it could be very well used as a third act playbook.
Is that why the book is Rise Up, right? The book is Rise Up, and your company's name is Rise Up,
The book is Ready to Rise. So my company is Rise Up. But what I recognize is a lot of us see this. Business owners, we want to help them so much. And we can help them. And it's crystal clear. We put it on a spreadsheet or a slide deck, and it's like, okay, let's go. And they're like, no. They're stuck. And so change can't happen until they're like gum on the pavement. I just came back from New York. It's so much gum on the pavement. But trying to get the gum off the pavement, it takes time. And so advisors need to recognize that just because a business owner said no now doesn't mean it's not a no ever. They might have time and a different attack.
You were talking about this in the office when you were in Cleveland. I heard you talking about that. I asked like the questions about company and book title because of your story, the double exit. I've never heard you refer to it as a double exit, and maybe this is why we connect too when we hang out, because I didn't have I don't know how soon that happened, but when I sold my company, a year after selling my company, I got a divorce. And it was, I think, in part reflecting on it now, right, as a 40-year-old guy and looking back 15 years. I was like not a great person to be around. I was like, I had sold my company, and you know my story, right? I totally had lost my identity. So to your point, I was just hanging out, trying to figure out what to do. I was playing indoor soccer, traveling around with the guys, and wasn't very present in my marriage at all, and it resulted in a divorce. So that you went from like a high to a low and then you kind of reinvent yourself. But yeah, that's
There's only one direction you can go when you hit the bottom.
yeah, you just straight up, rise up.
Yeah.
Right. So we kind of alluded to, you were in the office just a month or so ago, I guess, and EPI is one of our big strategic initiatives this year, is to form what we've called the EPI Thought Leadership Council. Mm-hmm. And the Thought Leadership Council is a select group of high-end CEPAs that will evolve our methodology. Mm-hmm. And you heard me talk about it at the start of this summit yesterday, really give the community to the community. Mm-hmm. And I think it's time that we not just focus on individual faculty members or even the Chris and Scott Snider way of thinking, but a collective group think of where do we want to go and who do we want to be, right? We're in 20 years of EPI. Mm-hmm. A lot of the show here at the summit has been about where we're going to go to the next 20 years. Mm-hmm. So can you talk to me about like your passion for the Thought Leadership Council and now as a leader and an award-winning CEPA, people will absolutely look to you for advice and modeling. Where are we going and what are we doing?
Mm-hmm. First of all, I really am deeply passionate about protecting the system and the method that already works.
Yeah.
And I think that magic is powerful, and it's been a game changer for me personally and professionally. So protecting what works and then really unlocking new potential to maximize the applicability of this work in the market. I think that if we focus on getting more business improvement specialists into this space, we'll be able to truly operationalize those two quarterbacks that your dad now talks about in Walking to Destiny version 2.
Yeah.
So really get those tandem relationships of the business improvements and the financial personal quarterbacks playing together, but we have a population problem. Not a problem, an opportunity.
Yeah, sure.
And the cool thing is that there are already people out there who are doing business coaching and consulting advisory. I noticed there were 3 different stickers at the front desk. We all call ourselves different things, but we're already in the game of exit planning.
Right.
We're doing it. We just are looking down in the business, not up to the owner's box. So I want to augment more of those business coaches into CEPAs, bring more of that population to the table. I think we can also get more CEPAs in the market doing the work if we build some sales capacity up front to really, the sales capacity that speaks to the business owner, that has got the business owner's mind, like yours and my minds, factored into that. Yep. So some resources and development around sales I think will be important here, because that is seeming to be a little bit of a barrier. And coaching around that, you're going to get a lot of no's before you get the yeses, but the no's don't always mean not ever. So some sales assets, and I'd love to transfer a lot of the way of thinking about this that I use in my practice and have done with my business coaching background into this domain. And I do see a future where we recognize that the person matters most, and we have deeper offerings in the personal leg of the stool. In the past, people lived in structures before 2020 that were pretty strong, that kept them boxed into their little worlds, but a lot of those structures fell down in 2020. The family structure, education, the concept of work, and business owners don't have as much of many places to hide, but also there's a lot of personal strain on business owners now more than ever. Economic fluctuations. So they're fatigued, they're distressed, they're overwhelmed, and we need to factor into the human needs a lot earlier. So some tools and resources around that I think is going to be a necessity. It's going to happen to us. We can either get ahead of it and respond with courage and bravery, or happen to us, but I think that we'll lead the pack. We'll get to 20, 30, and 50,000 advisors when we've got both the financial, business, and the personal domain really captured.
Yeah, you guys were, I can remember the Thought Leadership Council and their kind of first 2 or 3 days together, and our first coming together at EPI HQ in Cleveland. Very passionate. There was some passionate discussion around personal planning. Dad and I did a big debrief after you guys had left. He spent most of the time with you guys as our kind of current head of faculty and certainly like an ambassador of the methodology. And personal planning is huge. This year, we came out with a brand new CEPA program, CEPA 4.0. We added a personal planning module. We added a couple academy courses so that people could dive a little bit deeper or get maybe even an intro level to personal planning. But I talked about it from stage as well in one of my breakout sessions where some gentleman actually asked me, can you expand on personal planning a little bit, because it's such a like an unknown. It's fascinating. So
It's foundational, it's
Yeah.
human, and it's rooted in energy. So like
Sure.
if we just use what we apply in business to the personal realm, we can make a huge difference. But they need to know they're not alone. I say that every business owner needs three things. They need a business operating system in the business.
Yep.
They need an exit strategy, an exitable business that is a byproduct of that strategy, whether they stay or they go. And they need a personal support system, whether that's a peer group, a therapist, coach, life coach, whatever it is. Without that, they will continue to come last.
That's such good advice. I think I need the last one though, honestly. I think we got a good
We all
operating
do.
system. We certainly have a good, I'd like to think we have a good exit strategy, but it's something that actually my team at API said too, is like, right, every great player has a coach. And so a coach, a board, to your point, a therapist, whatever that may be. I think that's great advice to our business owners listening here today. So we're out of time. It is time for us to get back into sessions and get on with the last day of the Exit Planning Summit. Still some pretty cool sessions to go. We got an owners panel, which is always a huge hit. We got John Warlow coming up to talk to us about the entrepreneurial mindset. So I think understanding the owner's psychology is a huge asset and tool for us as certified exit planning advisors. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys at our next episode. Thanks.
Thank you.
As a certified exit planning advisor, you know every business exit is unique. But does your software slow you down? Tired of juggling spreadsheets, clunky project tools, or rigid software made from someone else's methods and processes? Meet Ella, a flexible, intuitive exit planning workbench built for trusted advisors. Ella helps you easily coordinate with your exit team, build business value over time, and create customized exit strategies tailored to each client. With Ella, trust, not transactions, drives advantageous exits. Design personal roadmaps to unlock client potential and strengthen your relationships. Ready to transform exit planning? Join the Ella waitlist today at exitwithella.io/exit is now and get 50% off your first 6 months.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Exit Is Now podcast. Hanging out with Ken Sanginario, a longtime veteran of this space, helped us. It was cool. We inducted Ken into the Exit Planning Circle of Excellence to kind of kick off our summit on Sunday. And as I was reflecting on your impact, me and my dad were talking about it. And in 2013, we put in the value acceleration methodology, and you became a founding faculty member that kind of spoke and taught that way of thinking. So welcome to the show, and congratulations, man.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. I have to say, I was shocked. And
That's what you keep saying.
Surprised and deeply honored by it. So
you've made a massive impact. Like when you just kind of look at, frankly, you were like in this space before the space was popular, right? And I think when Pete and Rich founded the Exit Planning Institute, they just founded a community in part that brought guys like you and them kind of all together in one spot. And you're like, oh my gosh, I've been talking about this too. I totally get it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And obviously certainly an impactful advisor within this space. But talk to me about the value opportunity profile, right? So you had to be the first tool, one of the first tools.
I think we were the first.
Right? You had to be the first to the market that said, all right, we have this way of thinking. Now we have Chris's process and methodology inside of the value acceleration methodology. But now let's put in a tool that we could use to track and enhance and assess value. So, like, are you a tech guy? Like, how did you come up with the idea?
No, I came up with the idea of the software spun out of my turnaround practice. So I spent 18 years turning around distressed companies before I started
it's a whole other podcast, I feel. I have so many questions.
And what I realized, it was back in the 08 and 09 recession. And my turnaround partners and I were getting a lot of engagements from the big commercial bank workout groups because there were so many companies getting pushed from their commercial loan portfolios were getting pushed into workout because they had gone sideways during the recession. So we were getting these assessment engagements from these big banks, and we were just pumping these things out like popcorn. But it occurred to me one day that like my partners and I, we were all super experienced. We all did high quality work, but we all did it our own way. And we didn't have a standard, it wasn't scalable. We didn't have a standard approach to be able to assess a company across the entire enterprise in a really efficient way that could uncover the root cause problems, the constraints and weaknesses that caused companies to get into trouble in the first place.
Yeah.
And so I just decided at that point that we needed a better approach. We needed a scalable approach, one that was consistent and comprehensive and all that. So I just started kind of nights and weekends in my spare time. It just became my hobby, basically.
Yeah, very entrepreneurial, right?
To like develop this process. But then I thought, well, if we can now attach some sort of scoring system, a risk score, a valuation. So I have a valuation background and an M&A background as well. So I started building a valuation module that would integrate with the qualitative diagnostic. Yep. And in that way, we could be able to show a company, hey, here's based on the current level of maturity of the company and the current condition, this is your baseline value. So the quality of the company impacts the value. So we're measuring intrinsic value. So by doing it that way, we could then do what-if analysis. Well, now that we know where the root cause weaknesses and constraints are, if we alleviate those, what would the impact be on the value of the company? So hence the value opportunity profile that we created. It's amazing because it was supposed to take me like 8 to 12 months to develop it and launch it. It was a 5-year.
A 5-year journey?
5-year. It took me a year to build a prototype, another year to calibrate it on like back testing it on in-house files, a 3rd year to field test it on live paying clients, and then 2 more years to get it rebuilt in the cloud. So it was a long process.
Yeah.
It was supposed to, the cost was supposed to be like $20,000 to do the whole.
More time.
Okay, I won't tell you how many multiples it was of that.
Exactly.
But since then, when I look back on it now, it's amazing because what we have now is so far beyond what I initially envisioned.
Yeah.
Because we keep adding new features, new functionality, new modules, new industry additions, all these new things.
Well, it has to be easier to do now, right? I mean, I know it's a complex process, but to add stuff to a software tool in 2025 has to be way easier to do than in 2010 or 2013.
It is, but the reason it is because the way it was originally architected by the software firm that we use, it was like a very rock solid architecture of the software. So they said, you can build a skyscraper on this software architecture, and it's gonna be solid.
So were you testing it on your own clients then? Is that like your 3rd year testing phase? I'm going to take this to my consulting firm and work through it?
It was both on our own clients, but we then partnered with a quasi-federal agency called the Manufacturing Extension Partnership, and they brought me into like 20 to 25 companies in 1 year, basically.
Yeah, so
they're all small manufacturers, like 3 to 8 million in revenue. So we got a really solid base of live clients that could validate that the system worked and was calibrated properly and all that. So, but now when it's funny because now when I look at our product development pipeline, what we have to develop is more than the accumulation of everything we've already done. So even though it's way beyond now what I initially envisioned, there's a lot more that we have in the pipeline. So
the market is kind of here to stay now, right? The way if you fast forward 20 years, like as we're celebrating our 20th anniversary at EPI, I think when we even bought EPI back in 2012, people thought exit planning would be for the baby boomers, and then we're kind of good, right? That tsunami of baby boomers that own businesses are going to sell, and we're going to use exit planning, and it's going to work. But I think what it's obviously evolved into is just kind of a way of living as a business owner, both in your business, personal, and financial life. So I can only imagine what your product development pipeline is, because there's all kinds of stuff now that business owners need, especially if they're integrating it into their daily life. And my dream is that people that are graduating college and thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, or frankly not going to college and becoming an entrepreneur, that they're running it with the value acceleration methodology in mind, and perhaps utilizing the value opportunity profile to continually assess and enhance their value. Did you always know that you wanted to take it to market as another business that would have a subscriber-based business, or was it initially meant to be something you and your partners would use?
Yeah, it was initially intended to be our tool internally. But after I started beta testing it, I started feeling, well, okay, if we keep this to ourselves, we might be able to touch, maybe a couple hundred of companies, but it's very limited how many companies we'll be able to touch. And I just felt like the knowledge that was poured into it not only from my 18 years of turning around distressed companies, but from a lot of collaboration, a lot of other subject matter experts, industry experts, a lot of collaborators that worked on the development of it with me. I just thought this is too good for us to keep internally. It really became more of a mission at that point than a product for us. More of a mission that, okay, if we can touch thousands or tens of thousands of companies by deploying this out and letting other people use it, we could make a much bigger impact. And then finding EPI and everything.
There's a whole built-in user base right here.
I mean, it's just, and you mentioned the awareness of business owners and everything. Thanks to EPI, like you guys, it's been absolutely incredible, the awareness that EPI has created in the marketplace. Because otherwise it would have been a lot of people, small guys like us, that trying to create awareness. You guys just blasted it out in record time so that all of a sudden the entire economy knows about these concepts, the importance of exit planning, like way at the beginning of
it's a way
ownership.
of running running your business and kind of running your life even as a business owner. So the other thing that, outside of being kind of an inventor and entrepreneur and creator, you're also an educator, right? So you've been on the EPI faculty, but you also own and created, you're a serial entrepreneur here, right? Consulting companies, tech tools, and now education. But you created the Certified Value Growth Advisor, the CVGA, which for our audience that are CEPAs, there's several folks that have it.
A lot.
And people are out doing the work, right? So they're going out kind of like you or my dad is, right? Going out and actually doing the value growth work. But I also think that there are people that want to broaden their horizons, right? So they might not do the work, but they want to understand what it does take to create immense value in their company. So take us down that journey for a little bit. So what goes, okay, so I have this successful consulting practice. Now I have a successful tool that's in the industry, in the profession. Now let's venture into education and create a whole designation to basically, again, probably it's based on your 18 years of experience or more, helping companies grow and exit. So talk about CVGA a little bit for me.
Sure. Well, it sprung out of the software. So the software launched, and 1 year into the software, advisors were using it and coming back to me saying, hey, we love this. Our clients are loving it, but now our clients want us to help them implement everything that the software says that they need to do. Right? And we're financial guys, or they were all, everybody is a niche expert in some field. They didn't necessarily have the broad understanding of a company's fundamentals across the whole enterprise. So they said, we don't know how to help them implement. Can you teach us? Can you show us, teach us? So the CVGA, that's what launched the CVGA. So I built a framework, got together with a bunch of collaborators, subject matter experts, and we created a content that I think is unique content. It was right from the start, I said, like, we don't want this to be content that is taught anywhere else. Like, it has to be unique, it has to be impactful, and it has to be synergistic with all of the other knowledge bases that are around. So I think we created a knowledge base, or we codified a knowledge base that didn't exist previously. And I wanted to make sure that it meshed really well with the SEPA program and the SEPA knowledge base. And I always tell people, yeah, even if you want to do this kind of work, roll up your sleeves, get in the field, and really help a company in detail, great, this is perfect. Even if you don't, the knowledge base itself makes you a better SEPA. It makes you a better financial planner. It makes you a better business valuator. Whatever other expertise you have, every knowledge base makes you better at all of the other knowledge that you already have. So I think it just filled a gap that was in the market.
I think so too.
And it makes people a lot better.
Because the CVGA, I mean, there's not much that you're competing with, though, really, in terms of organizations that support people that want to learn more about value growth, right?
This is not taught anywhere else, and there's no other organization that is
doing what you guys do.
Doing this kind of education.
Yeah, I think it's very like, it's similar to our story, right? There was like Pete and Rich, they had a void in the market, and they said, look, they wrote a book. So like you created a product,
right?
They wrote a book, and when Rich was on this very special summit series of our Exit is Now podcast that we're doing, he said, yeah, man, we just kind of wrote a book about our findings so that we could use the book to generate new business for our M&A investment banking practice. But the phone definitely rang.
Yeah.
But it was actually advisors calling me saying, hey, man, I read your book. This is super cool. Can you teach me more about this? So he said, I don't know if you know the story because you've been around like almost the entire time of our history. Rich said that the SEPA program actually started when one of his clients, who was a business owner, said, hey, can you just get me and my executive team in a room for a day and just workshop this content in the book? Wow. And that's when him and Pete were like, well, maybe we could turn this into like a credentialing program. And it was like, let's just do this on a long, like let's create a bunch of modules.
Yeah.
So knowing that, and again, celebrating 20 years of EPI, and for somebody that's been around in our profession and in our specific community for a while, what do the next 20 years look like for you? Like or for you, for meaning the overall community? What does the next 10 years look like for the community? Where we're going?
Yeah, it's wow. That's a huge question.
I know, right? We're gonna have a whole
I turn to you guys and I say, but you were talking. You and Chris have been talking over the course of this conference about the fact that the big wave, the big boomer wave, is here now. Everybody thought it was going to be here 10 years ago, and for a lot of reasons, it got pushed down the road. But it's here now, and I think what's interesting, another point that you guys made over the last couple of days, is that the younger generation, right, or the younger generations,
right, yeah,
they're not thinking that they're going to own a company for 30 years and then sell it when they retire. They want to start and sell 3 or 4 companies over the course of their careers.
I say it's like every decade, right?
You're every decade.
And growing, yeah.
And so, as you mentioned, it's becoming for them a way of life, a way to run their businesses. So I think the whole knowledge of exit planning and value acceleration and everything that you're teaching, everything that we're teaching, I think is going to become even a lot more mainstream and be taught to people in early, not only advisors, but business owners and even students, I think, over the next 20 years. I think you're absolutely right. This kind of information and content is going to be brought into schools because
that's the
why
dream.
shouldn't it be? Why shouldn't, I mean, when you think about all the stuff that's taught in schools and grad programs and everything, and most of what's taught in grad schools is all about the public markets. And you're teaching, and we're teaching all the knowledge that is for the private markets that nobody knows. There's no other way to get the information unless you go work for several decades in the field and learn it the hard way, or you come to SEPA, or you come to CVGA.
Exactly.
So,
well, Ken, we're out of time.
Okay.
We have to get back into our concluding sessions, right? So we got a couple of keynotes left and an owners panel, which I always like. But I appreciate you coming on the Exit Is Now podcast, and congratulations, man. Well deserved, and it wasn't surprising to me. I can tell you that.
Well,
Thanks,
I truly
man.
appreciate it, and I want to congratulate you and Chris and the whole EPI team. You guys have done just an amazing job over the last dozen
2-3
years.
days.
I mean, this conference in particular, but I mean, just over the last dozen years. And your team is absolutely incredible. I've been telling everybody, I've been commenting on your team the entire last few days, like just to people that don't know the team, that
Yeah.
are sort of new to EPI, saying like, hey, their team is incredible. Everybody is super friendly, super helpful, competent, like amazing.
I always say
amazing,
they're the best
amazing
damn team that I've played on. They're a lot of them are like family to me. So it's, they're
congrats.
very near and dear to my heart. Thanks,
Congrats
man. I really
to you.
appreciate
All
it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, guys, we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Are you a business owner seeking to unlock the true potential of your enterprise? Look no further than the second edition of Christopher Snider's revolutionary book, Walking to Destiny: 11 Actions an Owner Must Take to Rapidly Grow Value and Unlock Wealth. In this updated edition, Snider presents proven strategies for maximizing your company's value and accelerating growth. Whether you're aiming to sell or simply want to ensure long-term success, this book offers a blueprint for building a thriving, self-sustaining business. Walking to Destiny isn't just another book, it's a game changer, backed by Snider's own experience as a successful business owner and as a CPA. This book bridges the gap between business owners and advisors, guiding you towards financial freedom. But don't just take our word for it. Hear from those whose lives have been transformed by its insights. One satisfied reader raves, "The best guide for transitioning out of privately owned companies. I recommend it to all business owners and advisors." Another praises it on its focus for maximizing business value, calling it their, quote, principal tool for educating owners. Ready to take control of your business's destiny? Visit walkingtodestiny.com now and use code EXITISNOW to claim your free copy of Walking to Destiny: 11 Actions an Owner Must Take to Rapidly Grow Value and Unlock Wealth. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Make the moment perfect by seizing this opportunity today.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Exit is Now podcast with me, your host, Scott Snider, hanging out with our sponsor of the Summit Series. And so we do this special series at the Summit every year here on the main stage in the grand ballroom here, where most of our sessions are taking place today. And I want to say appreciate it, guys. I appreciate you coming on and sponsoring the show. A lot of cool folks that have come through the podcast in the Summit Series. We've had two inductees into the Circle of Excellence, Rich Jackham, and we just finished up with Ken Sanginario. Rich, co-founder of the Exit Planning Institute. We've had the award winners on, and so just a really cool, I can't wait for you guys to see the series, because it's just a really cool series, but we really appreciate all the love you give the EPI community, and apparently captaining some boats over the last couple of days.
A little bit. We decided we need to get out of the resort, get on the water. If we're going to be in Florida, might as well enjoy it.
And so you went out and you guys became the Exit captains last night?
Us and about 25 of our friends.
Yeah,
a lot of exit captains last night.
Yeah, a lot of exit captains. That's fun. I mean, it's fun, man. I think what we were talking about actually last night too is that one of the things I love about you guys is you're truly here to build some significant relationships. We heard our power sessions this morning, and a lot of that was community building, power of people, and power of relationships. And I don't think that a lot of our partners take advantage of stuff like that, where it's not just about pushing product and service and shaking hands. It's really about, let's just go hang out and start to know each other on a deeper level. And I think if we do, we probably would start doing business together as well. So tell me about Ella. When I hear Ella, you guys are in my life actually more often than you think. My daughter Jolene's best friend is named Ella.
Oh, no way.
And so I see little Ella all the time, and I'm like, oh yeah, these are one of our partners now. And so tell us about what you guys do and how you impact the EPI community.
Well, Ella is a advisor workbench. We're building it to be malleable, meaning we know that advisors, they know their craft. Mm-hmm. They've been in the industry for a long time, some of them for decades. And some of them have their unique methods and processes, and one size doesn't fit all. Other advisors, they need a little bit of coaching, some smart defaults to get to where they're achieving the level of execution that a lot of the more senior advisors have. And so we're building a tool that adapts to them, that's malleable, that's able to really adapt around their processes, as opposed to telling them a rigid system to go through.
And what's the ideal user? I guess there's obviously all kinds of different CPAs here. Are we looking at all CPAs? Is there a particular person that you're targeting?
Well, people like Kevin over here. So initially, I didn't know anything about the Exit Planning Institute or about the CPA designation, and I was talking to small business owners and then talking to advisors. And one of the things I kept hearing from small business owners is This is an interesting idea, but where does my advisor fit into it?
Yeah.
The lawyer, the accountant, the person who has been there for a decade or 2 decades. And so I started talking to advisors and came across Kevin here. And Kevin, being a SEPA, has a unique perspective on who it's for.
So as a new SEPA, coming out of the program, it's pretty rigorous, and it's like drinking through a fire hose,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And it's like, man, I just took this course, I passed it, I'm excited, enthused, I really want to break into the space, but then it's like, now what? Almost. And so for some of us, we build our own processes that help us deepen those relationships and further our exit planning businesses.
Yeah.
So for us, when we met, it was how do we cross that bridge? How do we get the new SEPA who just came out of the course to build those processes to help them out and become the trusted advisor? And so our goal was to build a model around that trusted advisor.
Yeah.
And then also not exclude, the well-established SEPA that's out there, and help them out as well.
Yeah.
So.
I would dig a
Sure.
little bit deeper there
Cool,
and saying, if we're looking at the next couple of months, so we're
Yeah.
still pre-launch, we're launching in about 2 months.
Yeah.
We were here to build relationships, understand what do advisors need, and build up a bit of a wait list.
Yep.
And the people that we're looking for right now, they're the ones who they want to co-create something new. We
Yeah.
did a talk on
Yeah.
the first day about
Yeah.
co-creation,
Yeah.
and how what we want to do is we want to work with the advisors who see some gap that is not being solved by what's out there right now, and bring them into the process of building something new from the ground up.
I think that, so I want to talk about because like this, over the last couple of days, we've interacted with almost 1,000 people, right? There's a ton of people here. And so it's actually pretty interesting. You probably took a lot of intel in, right? And that's one of the things that when I saw you last night, one of the things I like to do is, and more so ever this time around than years past, because typically I'm emceeing this event, right? So I'm pretty tied down and really a part of the show. This time it's been really nice because we can just mingle and we can learn and we can take in what I would just take in customer insights.
Right.
And so every night, like I said, I've been going back and writing down a bunch of notes on big things that stood out, people that I met, ideas that were created. And so what's the vibe that you guys are getting here? So it's like you're kind of in a data collection mode and building out a product for launch. What are some highlights from your summit experience?
I would say it's the level of craft of the people that we have met. So in any community, you have the people who are there because they're told by their company they need to be there. They need to, you have some level of that with any conference.
Yeah.
It was almost non-existent here. There were maybe 5% of the people were like that we talked to.
Like we're here because we have to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Almost everyone we talked to, they cared about the craft of the profession. What is it that they're doing to better their own practice, to better the small business owners in their ecosystem? And you don't see that in every community. You certainly don't see that at every conference. So that was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, and for us, it was all about, like you said, deepening that relationship. We talk all the time about deepening our relationship with the business owner, but for this conference in particular, it was about deepening our relationship with the
professional advisor.
Yeah, with my fellow SEPAs, and
that does. I like that you became a SEPA too, because there's just got to be a common language that's created, right, between you and everybody else, what I think would help develop any kind of service or product or any kind of resource or tool that we might be offering into the community. Have you seen that because you speak their language, it's easy to kind of integrate with everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. I joke I'm a 2-time SEPA. I got my designation back in, I think, 2021, and then my mistake. I let my CE go.
Yeah, we let it lapse a little bit.
And then but I see the value in it so much that I went back through the program again. And,
when did you come back through?
In February.
In February of this year.
Of this year.
And so what's interesting too is that you've seen the SEPA 4.0 program,
Right.
And the 4.0 program also has that personal planning module, so a brand new module.
Right.
And I don't know if you guys have seen this throughout the summit experience. One of the notes I consistently write down in my notebook is personal planning. There's a ton of people that want more information on how do we help a business owner understand the personal purpose, the mission and vision, and what do we want to do in the next acts or phases. I usually say phases of folks' lives, because I don't think, Ken was just up here, like certainly the baby boomers are out here in most immediate market here to exit probably one bite of the apple. But younger folks like us, we might have 3, 4, 5 bites of the apple. But I'd like to think, because you have that common language now, that it makes the collaboration and the creativity kind of come alive.
Absolutely. And you begin to understand, we talk about goal setting for business owners and the after for business owners and the psychology behind it all, but there's also a psychology behind newer SEPAs as well, and going through it and understanding it. Some of us, we may not think about it all the time, but we go through the program and think, okay, great, I've got this designation now. I hear a lot about collaborating with other advisors, but I'm kind of scared because I don't want somebody to come in and take my clients away from me and whatnot. And so sometimes we clam up and we think we can solve that problem.
So talk about that a little bit. So how? So talk through like how we might solve that problem.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things we're focused on. We already talked about malleability. How do we design something that has some smart defaults, some strong opinions at the beginning, and then you can open it up and start customizing every step of the way. And that's through every single stage, every single gate, as you're going through the value acceleration process, and going through cycles and sprints. There's certain things that are inherent to either different types of advisors or to certain industries. We have a fantastic base model here that's adaptable and extendable. But the tools that we're building go from fact finding at the very beginning all the way through delivering evaluation. We're not focused on a lot of the intricate financials right now. We're coming up with the valuation ourselves, aside from a lightweight tool. But for the most part, it's around how do we bring in different advisors, collaborators, the small business owner, bring them all into the tool, have one central place to work from, and then have some reporting functionality, some various ways of engaging everyone on that collaboration team in a way that is much more modern and much more collaboration focused, similar to Google Docs or Notion, as opposed to that Word document that someone may print out and hand to their client.
With a little sense of accountability along the way, too.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing that we talk a lot about in our EPI community, right, is that people have access that are SEPAs to a full-blown member center, right? You have access to this. But it's all like static stuff, right? Like it's like a Word doc or an Excel spreadsheet. It can't necessarily, so it's good in some form, but not necessarily something wildly scalable per se, right? So we talk a lot about the systems and tools that help us kind of amplify our message and our approach.
There's one thing, so we've talked about co-creation a little bit. We started off with a very lightweight alpha test. If you were in the session the first day, we talked about that. It was literally Kevin was doing a mock interview with a business owner that we had recruited. In the background, we'd go back and use a design tool to mock up what a dashboard could look like and then deliver it back. And then the second phase there was we had something a little bit more polished, but still really clunky. It was still an alpha, but it was a dashboard that we could start delivering to some of the advisors that we wanted to test with. And one of the things that we learned universally is that they were able to create more value for their own practice. They were opening up new billable hours because they were able to point in a way that was very easy for them to explain that there was a specific action that they could take that relates back to some of the deficiencies in the business that they found during discovery. And that opened up new revenue for them. So that made its way into a feature that we call the value chain, and it's basically a way of being able to look at from sprint to sprint, what are the actions that the advisor is taking, that the business owner is taking, and being able to really quantify that so that when the next renewal is coming up, when a contract is up, the advisor is able to point to that and be able to say, here's all the work that we have done, and we have increased the multiple by X or Y amount, and let's keep doing that in the next year.
So what's the 3 to 5 year strategy, right? So I always find it fascinating building companies. So you guys kind of know me well enough that I think like the ground up startups, I never thought I'd get like into a startup again until we launched the DriveValley.com brand, right? Which is supposed to be like a brand for EPI, and it's like becoming a whole nother business. But nonetheless, what's the next 3 to 5 years look like for you guys? Because I mean, a wildly impactful community, I think, right? You're going to have a ton of action, I'd like to think.
We need to ensure that we're continuing to engage with the community. So we talked about co-creation. That isn't going away. We're not doing research and then going back and building what we think that we need to build. We talked about the 25 of our closest friends last night on the cruise. And we're going to be pulling them in along the way to make sure that the people on the wait list and the people who are early users, they are shaping what we're doing. And that's going to continue not only in the next couple of months, but the next couple of years.
Yeah, so you're gonna have like a focus group So I totally get what you're saying because
advisory panel.
like an advisory. Is that what you call it? Like an advisory panel. So we have something similar at EPI. We call it a thought leadership council. And so one of the things you might have heard me talk about at the summit this time around too is decentralization of me and my dad, right? So. And the Thought Leadership Council is kind of like our advisory panel to say, we had Renee Russo up here on the podcast too. She's part of the Thought Leadership Council. We said, look, where do we go next? Like, where does the methodology evolve to? Where do we go as a community? What are the needs? What does the Beyond SEPA path look like? And so this notion of co-creating is something that we've leaned into as well. Because I would say that over the last 20 years, it's been very Rich and Pete, the founders of EPI, to the kind of Chris and Scott Snider era, and now it's time to kind of give it to the community and say, where do we go from here? But I think like co-creating a whole product, organization, service, I think is something that is wildly unique in frankly a bunch of great partners that are out there. That has to be a standout for you guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Well, gentlemen, we're out of time, and so we got to get back into session. So Tuesday, we're ending with an owners panel. That should be a good one. And John Warlow, who is a keynote speaker, who's going to talk about the entrepreneurial mindset. So, gentlemen, I appreciate hanging out with you. I'm sure we'll hang out later again today as we conclude our summit. I deeply appreciate your partnership, and please go follow, listen, and learn on all of your podcast platforms. Thank you, guys, and we'll see you later.
Awesome. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks.